I didn't realize I was broke until the bank laughed in my face. I was 18, sitting across from a loan officer in a too tight suit and too bright smile, applying for a modest student loan so I could afford books and rent. He typed something into his computer, then paused, blinked, typed again. Then he said, you already have a student loan, and 3 credit cards, and a car lease. I laughed, out loud, because it had to be a mistake. I didn't even own a car. Turns out, someone else did, in my name, and that someone was my parents. Over $82,000 in debt, racked up in my identity before I'd even finished high school. 2 private loans, 1 department store card, a payday advance, even a gym membership in Nevada, and I've never left Michigan. I confronted them the same night. Mom was microwaving leftover pasta. Dad was watching reruns. I dropped the printouts on the counter like a stack of divorce papers. What is this? I asked, voice shaking. Dad barely looked up. Oh, that. Yeah, we meant talk to you. Talk to me? You used my name, I said. You stole my credit. You lied. Mom sighed, like I was being dramatic. We didn't steal anything. You're a child. This is a family. We were drowning. So you decided to drown me instead? I snapped. Dad stood up then. Not fast. Just enough to make me back up a step. Watch your tone. I did. I watched it turn into silence. That's how they always won. Guilt, control, and fear disguised as duty. They told me to calm down. That it was just money. That you'll make good money once you graduate. You can handle a little debt. Except I couldn't graduate. Because with my credit trashed, I couldn't afford to stay enrolled. Couldn't qualify for loans. Couldn't co-sign with anyone who didn't already owe 12 years of back taxes and a Sears card in collections. So I dropped out, got a job at a warehouse, lived in my car for 6 weeks, ate peanut butter crackers from a gas station and cried under the glow of a highway exit sign more than I'll admit. My parents never said sorry. They said, you'll figure it out. Like debt was character development. They never offered to pay it back. They said, we all have to make sacrifices. Like my future was a group project. I stopped answering their calls a month later. Then I started climbing. 1 credit dispute at a time. 1 side hustle. 1 paycheck. 1 tiny step. It took me 11 years to undo what they did in 2. But I did it. Now I've got a new name at the bank. And it's approved. Rebuilding a credit score is like gluing a shattered mirror. Slow, sharp, and full of ugly reflections. I started with the stuff they don't teach in school, how to file disputes with the 3 major bureaus, how to track inquiries, how to remove duplicate entries and file affidavits of fraud. I read forums full of people like me, watched YouTube videos at 2 a.m. while the guy in the next apartment practiced trumpet through the walls. I got a prepaid card, used it to buy groceries, paid it off in full every Friday like a ritual. 2 years in, I'd cleared half the bogus debt. 4 years in, I'd saved enough to finally re-enroll in community college online this time. No roommates. No risk. 6 years in, I launched a side hustle helping other people clean up their credit messes. Not flashy. No ads. Just word of mouth and trust. Turns out, I wasn't alone. There are more of us than you'd think, people quietly rebuilding what someone else shattered. By year 10, I had a full client list, a modest office, a part-time assistant named Rhonda who made a mean banana bread, and a credit score that made lenders blush. I didn't post about it, didn't brag, didn't call home, especially not home. I hadn't seen my parents in over a decade, didn't even know if they still lived in the same split-level house with the sagging porch and the doorbell that never worked. Then, last month, I got an email from my mom. Subject line, "Hey sweetheart. Body. We saw your business site. It looks amazing. We're so proud of you. We were wondering if you could help us. Our credit has taken a bit of a hit. Nothing major. Just a few hiccups. We'd love to talk. Hope you're doing well. Love, Mom." No mention of what they did. No apology. Just a cheerful request for help, like the past was a blurry VHS tape they'd fast-forwarded through. I didn't respond. 2 days later, my dad called. New number. I let it go to voicemail. His voice was scratchy. Older, but still sharp. "Son, we could use your expertise. We're trying to refinance the house and there are issues. We figured you'd understand. You've always been good with this stuff." I stared at the phone for a long time. He figured I'd understand. Understand what? Being used? Being erased until I was useful again? I texted one word back, meet. He replied immediately, when? That's how I found myself sitting in the back booth of a diner last Tuesday, a fresh coffee in front of me, watching the two people who detonated my life walk through the door like it was a family reunion. They smiled like we were on a game show. "Wow, you look great," Mom said. "So grown up." Dad nodded, serious. "You've done well for yourself." I didn't answer. Just pushed a manila folder across the table. Inside, a full breakdown of their credit history. Every default, every missed payment, every new account, every lie. I watched their faces shift from smug to pale. Then I said, "You want help? You'll get it. But not how you think." They didn't look at the folder for long. Just long enough to see the numbers, the red flags, the defaults, the repossession from 2019 that they'd clearly hoped no one would notice. Then my mom looked up, forced a smile. "Well, some of that is exaggerated," she said. "No," I said flatly. "It's documented." Dad sighed. "We didn't come here to argue. We came for help. And I'm willing," I said. "Under one condition." They perked up, like I just tossed them a lifeline. I slid a second folder across the table. "This is a notarized agreement. You want me to clean this up? Fine. But I want a signed confession, one that acknowledges what you did to me. That you used my identity without permission. That you racked up over $80,000 in fraudulent debt. That you lied about it for years." My mom's smile cracked. "You're kidding." "No," I said. Dad's hands curled into fists on the table. "You want us to incriminate ourselves?" "I want the truth on paper," I said. "Because one day, if I decide to forgive you, I don't want to wonder if you even remember what you did." Mom's voice turned sharp. "That's cruel." Cruel was leaving me with $82,431 in debt before I was old enough to drink, I snapped. This is paperwork." Dad pushed the folder back toward me. "Absolutely not." "Then I'm not your credit fairy," I said. "I'm not your son when you're desperate and a stranger when you're secure." Silence. A long, heavy silence filled with all the words they didn't say the first time they ruined my life. Then Mom leaned in, lowered her voice. "What if we compensate you?" I laughed. Actually laughed. "You want to pay me off?" "No? After everything?" Dad stood. "Forget it. We don't need your help." "You clearly do," I said. "You're 1 point away from foreclosure. 1 bounce check from losing your car. You came here hoping I'd roll over like I used to." He leaned across the table. "You're being vindictive." "No," I said. "I'm being careful." They left angry. Didn't even take the folders. I sat there for another 10 minutes. Finished my coffee. Tipped the waitress double. Then walked out with both folders tucked under my arm like proof of my own sanity. Later that night, I got a voicemail from my mom. No apology. Just 4 words. "We raised you better." I didn't respond, but I saved the message. Right next to the voicemail she left me at 18, the one that started this entire mess. Because one day, when the past tries to rewrite itself again, I'll have the receipts. It took less than 48 hours for them to switch tactics. They couldn't guilt me directly, so they went wide. First came the text from relatives I hadn't spoken to in years. "Hey, your mom said you've been going through something. Everything okay?" My cousin Lena messaged, then an old family friend, then my high school guidance counselor. They all had the same phrasing: "Your folks are worried." Translation? They're controlling the narrative. I didn't respond. Until Aunt Gwen, my dad's sister, forwarded me something. It was an email my mother sent out to half our family. Subject line: "Concern for Ethan." My name in bold. The body read like a Lifetime movie gone sideways. She wrote that I'd been distant, that I was under stress, and had recently demanded legal documents in exchange for basic family assistance. She called it emotional blackmail. Said I was struggling. Attached to the email? A redacted copy of the agreement I gave them, the one asking them to confess to the identity theft they committed when I was 18. No context. No details. Just a vague story about their troubled son trying to ruin their lives for no reason. Aunt Gwen added her own note at the top. "Something doesn't feel right about this. Just wanted you to see it. Let me know if you want to talk." I stared at the screen for a long time. They weren't just spinning a story. They were laying groundwork, a defense, in case I ever told mine. I forwarded everything to Marcus, my attorney. He called 5 minutes later. "This isn't just manipulation," he said. "They're creating a false narrative. Laying down a paper trail of concern to discredit you. Classic preemptive smear campaign. What do I do? Keep everything. And don't engage directly." Later that week, Rhonda, my assistant, knocked on my office door. "You okay?" she asked. "Your mom called the office line." I froze. She said she was checking in. Asked if we offer family discounts. Wanted to confirm you were handling their case. I shook my head. I told them I wouldn't. She knows that, Rhonda said. She just didn't think I'd ask. She handed me a sticky note with the number, then shredded it in front of me. I owe that woman a raise. That night, I walked for hours. No music, no calls. Just me and the weight of memory pressing down on every sidewalk crack. They hadn't changed. They didn't want forgiveness or truth. They wanted leverage. And this time, they weren't getting it. The letter wasn't dramatic. No bold fonts. No threats. Just one page, sent certified, drafted by Marcus. A cease and desist addressed to my parents, politely asking them to stop misrepresenting our situation, sharing false details about my mental state, and distributing a private contract to third parties without my consent. 3 days later, I got confirmation. It had been signed for. By my mother. They didn't reply. But suddenly, the phone stopped ringing. The sympathy text from cousins vanished. Even the Facebook guilt bait disappeared. It didn't feel like peace. Just the silence that comes after a door slams shut. Then Aunt Gwen reached out. I think we should talk, she said over the phone. In person. We met at a diner halfway between our cities' neutral ground. She looked older than I remembered, though not in a fragile way. Just worn down, like someone who'd been holding too many secrets for too long. I want to apologize, she said once the waitress left. I knew something was wrong, but I didn't know how bad it was. I didn't say anything. I just waited. She reached into her purse and pulled out an envelope. Slid it across the table like a peace offering. Inside were photocopies, old emails, financial statements, and one document that made my stomach turn. It was a loan application, dated 2 years before I turned 18. My name was on it. My social security number. My father's handwriting on the signature line. They used your identity when you were 16, she said. After the second business failed. They said it was temporary. Just until things stabilized. I leaned back in my chair, trying to process it. 16. I'd been blaming myself for being behind in life. For needing to catch up financially. But the race had been rigged before I even knew I was running. Why are you telling me this now? I asked. Because they're not going to stop, Gwen said. Not unless someone holds them accountable. And I think it has to be you. I nodded slowly. This wasn't just it, I said. They hijacked my future. She didn't argue. They've always been good at rewriting stories, she said. But you've got the real one. I looked down at the documents, at the forged signature, at the years I'd spent cleaning up their mess without even knowing how far it reached. And for the first time, I felt something close to clarity. If they wanted forgiveness, they could start by facing the truth. All of it. I didn't want revenge. Not really. What I wanted was acknowledgement. But some people don't know how to give it, not without twisting it into pity or power. So I wrote them a letter. Old school. Printed. Sealed. Sent by registered mail, just like the cease and desist. It started like this. You used my name to escape your consequences. You ruined my credit before I could vote. You stole my future and called it survival. But I survived anyway. I told them everything I'd uncovered, the forged documents, the dates, the early fraud. I told them about the email from Aunt Gwen, the contracts they tried to leak, the fake stories they fed our relatives. Then I ended with this. You don't get to be proud of the man I became. You lost that right when you buried me under your debt and left me to dig myself out alone. I'm not writing for forgiveness. I'm writing so that if you ever try to spin this again, you'll know exactly why I never called, never came back, and never will. I didn't ask for anything. Not an apology. Not repayment. Not reconciliation. Just silence. And that's what I got. They never responded. No angry emails. No guilt-laced voicemails. Just nothing. And strangely, that was the peace I'd been chasing. Not a dramatic confrontation. Not courtroom fireworks. Just the end of the story. I shredded the final copy of the forged loan form a week later. I'd already sent a scan to Marcus, logged it with the credit bureaus, froze my report, and added a fraud alert. Then I let it go. Some ghosts aren't worth keeping. A month later, Aunt Gwen mailed me a birthday card. Inside was a photo of me at 12, back when I still believed family meant protection. On the back, she'd written, "You deserved better. I'm glad you found it anyway." I keep that photo on my desk now, right next to a little wooden plaque I carved during my warehouse days that says, "Fix what you didn't break." It's a reminder that healing isn't about waiting for apologies. It's about building something stronger than the damage. These days, my credit score is near perfect. So is my peace. I have clients, a team, a business built from the wreckage of their choices. And more importantly, I have boundaries. Real ones. Lines that don't bend, even when the people crossing them share your DNA. Sometimes people ask if I'd ever forgive them. But forgiveness isn't the question. The question is, would I ever trust them again? And the answer is no. Not because I'm bitter. Because I've learned. Family isn't who raises you. It's who respects you. And as far as I'm concerned, I raised myself.